Hey, Mike here. I just wanted to let you know that you can listen to Dark Poutine early and ad-free on Amazon Music, included with Prime. Welcome back to Dark Poutine. I am Mike Brown. How are you, Matthew Stockton?
Just taking a sip of my coffee.
I see that, and you've got a sort of a silhouette of the Queen with her pearls and her little crown on, and a Q on the other side.
This is a company they've shut down now. They're called the Big Tomato Company.
The Big Tomato.
Modern English fine bone china, made entirely in Stoke-on-Trent, England. And I have a bunch of different letters, and they have like a cool image that goes with the letter. Yeah.
I love mugs. I have one that my sister gave me that says, "I was normal 2 cats ago." This is very true.
It's very appropriate, though.
Honestly, though, I don't know if I was ever truly sane. Anyway, let's get on with this show.
Okay.
The views, information, and opinions expressed during the Dark Poutine podcast are solely those of the producer and do not necessarily represent those of Curious Cast, its affiliate, Global News, nor their parent company, Chorus Entertainment.
Dark Poutine is not for the faint of heart or squeamish. Listener discretion is strongly advised. We're not experts on the topics we present, nor are we journalists. We're 2 ordinary Canadian schmucks chatting about crime and the dark side of history. Let's get to it. Put on your toque, grab yourself a double-double and a Nanaimo bar. It's time to scarf down some Dark Poutine.
You are responsible for obtaining and maintaining at your own cost all equipment needed to listen to Dark Poutine. Dark Poutine can be addictive. Side effects may include, but not be limited to, pausing and questioning the system, elevated heart rate, pondering humanity, odd looks from colleagues as you laugh out loud at work, family members not into true crime worrying about you. Positive side effects may include some perspectives and opinions that you disagree with, as well as some wokeness and empathy. If you don't think Dark Poutine is for you, consult your doctor immediately.
In the early hours of November 23, 2013, 18-year-old Lukas Strasser-Hird was violently beaten and stabbed behind the Vinyl nightclub in Calgary, Alberta, in an alley off 10th Avenue Southwest. He was rushed to the hospital, but the injuries were too severe, and he died later that morning from multiple stab wounds and massive blood loss. Walk with us through the events that led from a night out at the club to one of Calgary's most closely watched murder cases, and examine how the chaos in that alley would ripple through the city, the courtroom, and the lives left behind. You're listening to Dark Poutine, episode 417, Murder Behind Vinyl, the tragic death of Lukas Strasser-Hird. Calgary, Alberta, in the fall of 2013 was riding high. Oil money had been flowing into the city for years, and you could feel it everywhere. New towers were going up downtown one after another. Roughnecks rolling in off the patch with money to burn and only a weekend to spend it. Young professionals were buying their first condos and eating at restaurants they couldn't have afforded 2 years earlier. The city had that particular energy that comes when a lot of people are doing well at the same time, generous, a little reckless, and very much alive. Calgary has always been that kind of place, though. Before the glass towers and the craft cocktail bars, it was a frontier town. Cattle trails, timber frame saloons, and men a long way from home with not much to lose. That spirit built the city. The willingness to show up, work hard, and take your chances. But it had a shadow side too, and anyone who'd spent time there knew it. Boomtowns draw everyone. The ambitious and the desperate, the lucky and the lost. When you pack that many people into the same cold streets and the same loud bars, things don't always end well. By late 2013, there were rougher pockets of the city that reminded you of that. The East Village, the old warehouse district, where the rail yards hadn't quite given way to the new money yet. And 10th Avenue Southwest, where Vinyl Nightclub had become one of those Friday night gravitational pulls, the kind of place people ended up whether they'd planned to earlier or not. There was nothing unusual about November 22nd, 2013. It was a cold Friday night. Like many other Fridays before it, 18-year-old Lukas Strasser-Hird was out with his friends, looking forward to the weekend. He never made it home. Lukas had grown up in Calgary in a close-knit family, and those who knew him described a young man whose life revolved around friends, family, and a busy social circle. He had recently finished high school and, like many at that stage, was moving into early adulthood, working, spending time with friends, and beginning to shape what would come next. In the days after his death, his family released a statement that became one of the most widely cited descriptions of Lukas. They said simply he was, quote, a loving son, brother, and friend, end quote. Friends echoed that. Speaking to Global News in the immediate aftermath, one friend said Lukas was always smiling, describing someone who was consistently upbeat and easy to be around. Another told reporters that, quote, he was the kind of guy who would talk to anyone, end quote. Lukas was social, open, and widely liked. He moved comfortably through different groups of people. Accounts described him as someone who was regularly out with friends, attending gatherings, and spending time in Calgary's social spaces. One friend told CTV News that Lukas, quote, had a lot of friends, adding that, quote, everybody knew him. At 18, Lukas was well on his way. There aren't any reports suggesting anything unusual or out of the ordinary in the way he was living. His routines, as described in media coverage, were typical for someone his age. He went out on weekends, stayed connected to friends, and remained closely tied to his family.
Okay, so I'm going to be a little bit nostalgic here, Mike, for a moment.
Okay, you're going to wax nostalgic.
Yeah, so I don't know. Like he was young. He went out a lot, and I don't know if he was a club kid on a regular, but he sounds like he was quite sociable. And I was a club kid, and listeners who were once club kids will probably understand what I'm saying here and remember the same spirit in a person they knew.
Yeah.
From everything we've heard about Lukas, guys like him were always really important to the scene and to the culture.
Sure.
That kind of person who just moved easily through a room, like not loud and not trying too hard, but just somehow connected to everyone.
Just part of the groove, yeah.
They'd talk to anyone and they had no edge to them and no judgment. They're just open. Those people became sort of the center of a night without ever meaning to. Not the focus, but kind of the glue. The one who makes it feel easy for everyone else to be there.
Yeah.
In the nightclub world, especially when you're young, it isn't really about the place. It's about the feeling. Right. And there's freedom and friendship and love and that sense for a few hours that everything is light and possible and shared. And people like Lukas carried that by the sounds of it. Right.
It's a vibe. Yeah.
They create that space without even realizing it, which is why when something like this happens to somebody like Lukas, it really lands for me and for people who understand the beauty of people like him. It lands for us because I recognize that energy. I remember people in the club scene when I was young that were like him.
Yeah.
They were awesome people, and he sounds like he was an awesome kid.
I've seen a bunch of pictures of him, and he had a great smile. He looked like he's a decent guy.
Yeah.
The night of November 22nd, 2013 began the usual way. Reports indicate that Lukas had been at a house party earlier in the evening, part of a familiar weekend pattern. There was nothing in early accounts to suggest that the night stood out in any way. Friends later described it as typical for their group, time spent together, moving between locations, and socializing. One friend, speaking to the media in the days that followed Lukas's death, said, quote, it was just a normal night. There were no early indications of conflict or concern in the hours leading up to what would follow. As the night progressed, Lukas and others moved through the city. Calgary's downtown core, particularly late on a Friday night, was active. Bars, restaurants, and streets were filled with people, many of them the same age as Lukas or thereabouts. It was an environment that was busy and at times chaotic, but also typical for a weekend night in the city. At some point, Lukas became separated from parts of his group. This detail appears in reporting, but was not initially seen as unusual. Friends moving in and out of different locations, splitting off and reconnecting later, was common during nights out. There was no immediate indication that this separation was significant. Those who saw him that evening described him as being in good spirits. There are no verified reports indicating he was upset, agitated, or anticipating any confrontation. The available accounts remain consistent with how he had been described overall: social, relaxed, and engaged with people around him. His presence in the downtown area in the early hours of November 23rd placed him in one of the busiest parts of the city at that time of night. Crowds were moving through the streets, and the atmosphere reflected the usual mix of energy and unpredictability that comes with late-night activity. As one friend told reporters, nothing seemed wrong. This underscored how little warning there was that anything was about to change.
We tend to think risk announces itself, Mike.
Right.
That something will feel off or look different or give you a reason to pause. But most of the time it doesn't. It just shows up disguised as a regular night, a routine, a normal night out.
Yeah.
Your guard is lowered, not because of carelessness, but because of familiarity.
Mm-hmm.
You've had lots of great nights out, nothing bad's happened, and you don't think anything will. And that's how these moments happen, and we've all been there where you go out and you have fun in the night. And what if something like this happened? That big what if, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because you can relate to this, just like going out and having fun with friends, and then the absolute worst thing that could ever happen happens.
Yeah, I've heard it said that life can change in seconds and inches. Really?
Seconds and centimeters.
Right, I forgot that we were supposed to speak metric only here. Vinyl Nightclub sat on 10th Avenue Southwest in downtown Calgary in the middle of a stretch known for its late-night crowds. On weekends, people lined up outside while security controlled the door. Inside, the room was dark and tightly packed. A central dance floor filled quickly with electronic, hip-hop, and top 40 music pounding through the space. Lights flashed across the crowd as people moved shoulder to shoulder, shouting to be heard over the noise. The bar stayed busy and the flow of people never really stopped. Like many clubs in the area, Vinyl was part of a larger circuit. People arrived late, stayed for a while, then moved on to the next place. The atmosphere was loud, crowded, and constant, shaped by music, alcohol, and the energy of a full room. Lukas Strasser-Hird, just 18, was at Vinyl with his friends, part of the easy flow of a Friday turning into a Saturday, the kind of night that felt alive with the possibility for a young guy stepping into adulthood. As closing time neared, the energy shifted. Asmar Schlaw, one of the men who would later face charges, had shown up earlier with his own circle of friends. He made his way to the coat check, expecting to grab his jacket and head out, but it wasn't there. Words flew fast. Frustration boiling over into something sharper, Schlaw turned his anger toward the bouncers, letting loose a racial slur that cut through the noise like a blade. The staff didn't take it quietly. They grabbed him, pushed him toward the door, and ejected him onto the street, where the chill hit hard and the crowd outside was already restless. That's when Lukas stepped in. He wasn't looking for trouble, but something about the scene pulled him forward. Maybe it was the unfairness of the slur, or the way the bouncers handle it, or just the instinct of a guy who didn't back down from what he saw as wrong.
I have always had a hard time letting go when I hear a racial slur. And in fact, time has proven to me, Mike, that when I hear someone using a racial slur against someone else, I have always stepped in, always.
Yeah.
I've thought about why, and it's because I don't want to be confrontational. I don't like conflict, and most people don't, but there's something about a racial slur to me that doesn't land like normal anger. For me, it's a line that's crossed in real time, because it's not just directed at one person. It drags a whole history in and turns a moment into something way heavier than it needs to be.
I agree.
And for some people, and people like me, I think Lukas might have been one of them, there's just a reflex there. For me, it's a reflex, Mike. When you hear it, your brain doesn't go, stay out of it. It goes, that's not okay. And the problem is those instincts come from a very good place, but they don't always account for what the situation could become.
Right. Yep.
But yeah, good for him.
Heated words were exchanged. Schla, still fuming over the coat check mess, pushed Lukas. It wasn't a light shove. The push landed, and in that split second the air changed. Bodies closed in. Friends on both sides surged forward, turning a one-on-one exchange into a tangle of arms and shouts. Lukas swung back. His fist connected with Schla's face, splitting his nose open in a spray of blood that stained the sidewalk. Schla reeled, hands to his face, the pain sharp and immediate. Around him, his friends, guys who'd come out together, loyal in that late-night way, saw the hit and reacted. They piled on, surrounding Lukas, fists flying in a wild scrum. Punches glanced off shoulders, elbows jabbed, voices rose into a roar that drew eyes from across the street. Lukas held his ground as best he could, but the numbers weren't even. His own friends were there too, pushing back, trying to shield him from the swarm. The bouncer, seeing the fracas, pulled Lukas back inside vinyl, the door thudding shut behind them. But the night wasn't done with him yet. Lukas stood there, chest heaving, fists still clenched from the street scuffle. His friends clustered close. The staff didn't waste time. They knew the crowd outside was still riled and looking for Lukas, eyes locked on the front entrance, waiting for him to come out. "Get him out the back," one bouncer barked, steering Lukas and his group toward the rear exit. It was a quick march through the club's dim corridors, past the bathrooms and storage rooms, until they hit the heavy metal door that dumped them straight into the alley.
Yeah, and this is difficult because in a way I understand how they were trying to be helpful by getting him to lead through the back exit. At the same time, the overall approach here is to get him in the situation out of the venue.
Right.
Now, I don't think the bouncers at all knowingly sent him out there to be hurt. And they've probably seen plenty of fights before and just thought, they can sneak him out the back, it's done, right? But this situation seemed more extreme even from the beginning. And if they could turn back time, knowing what they know now, I'm 100% sure they would have kept them inside for safety, called the police. And, but at the same time, that's the last thing a venue wants is a police visit.
The bouncers did the best job they could at the time with the information that they had. I mean, it was something that they had done 100 times before. Lukas Strasser-Hird's death does not fall on those guys. Not to me, anyway.
No, and what's at fault here is the people that did the crime.
Absolutely, yeah. It was around 2:37 a.m. now. The narrow, darkened alley was squeezed between 10th Avenue Southwest and the next street over, lit only by the faint spill of streetlights and the club's backdoor glow. Lukas and his friends, Bryce Sundberg among them, stepped out into the cold and jogged east down the lane toward 1st Street Southwest, figuring they'd loop around and shake the trouble. The alley felt like a shortcut to safety, but they didn't get far. Just up ahead, a figure stepped out. Jock Pauk, one of Schla's group who'd circled around from the front just minutes later. Pauk peeled off east down 10th Avenue Southwest at 2:38, according to the club's time-stamped cameras, positioning himself like a blocker at the alley's mouth. He didn't say a word. He just shoved hard into Lukas, forcing him and his friends back deeper into the darkness. Lukas stumbled, tried to push past, but Pauk was on him fast, fists flying, pummeling his face and body in a sudden, brutal barrage. Lukas hit the ground near a dumpster, curling up as the blows rained down. His friends scattered or froze, yelling, but Pauk was relentless. That's when the first wave hit. Nathan Gervais had gone the other way, west down 10th Avenue around 2:35 a.m., vanishing briefly toward his car before reappearing in the alley's western end. He'd been seen running off, then back, a glint of something in his hand that witnesses later pinned as a knife pulled from his vehicle. Gervais and another guy, Aaron Rogers, had been lying in wait according to what Brady Johnston later told police. They'd bragged about jumping Lukas if he came back out. Now they closed in from that end, trapping Lukas's group. Pauk's attack kicked it off, but others piled on. Kicks to the ribs, stomps to the legs, fists thudding into flesh. Lukas was down, defenseless, blood already pooling under him from chest wounds that paramedics later counted as 4 deep stabs, slicing into his liver, lungs, and heart. The violence was frenzied. Lukas was pressed against the dumpster, grasping his shirt soaked with dark blood. At that point, 2 good Samaritans, Stephen Joey Arnold and Natalie Henderson, stumbled into the chaos. They saw the blood, the massive gush from Lucas's chest, and tried to shield him, yelling for it to stop. Arnold dialed 911 first, telling the dispatcher of a stabbing in the alley behind Vinyl nightclub. A kid down bad. Bryce Sundberg, one of Lucas's friends, made another call seconds later. Both calls pleaded with the dispatcher to send first responders right away, saying Lucas wasn't moving right. The lull lasted only a minute, maybe less. The attackers pulled back just enough for the helpers to kneel beside Lucas, pressing hands into his wounds and whispering to keep him awake. He was fading fast, pale, and unresponsive. The blood loss was turning his skin to ice. That's when the second wave of attackers crashed in. More thugs from the front of the club crowd, Franz Amir Cabrera among them, who'd lingered outside until after 2:40 a.m. before heading west, flooding into the alley entrance. No knives this time, just boots and rage. They kicked at Lucas's slumped form, targeting his head and sides, ignoring the pleas from bystanders. Natalie Henderson fled the group as they turned on her, but Stephen Arnold stayed, shielding Lucas as best he could until the sound of sirens wailed closer, sending the attackers scampering like rats.
Yeah, and this is a moment that matters because whatever this started as, it ends with people choosing to continue what they're doing when they didn't have to. For me, this is where the responsibility becomes very clear.
Yeah.
This went far beyond being a fight a while ago. It's now an execution.
An execution for standing up against a punk whose little baby ego was hurt.
Absolutely.
What a stupid reason to kill somebody. Stupid. Police rolled up minutes later, around 2:45 a.m., lights cutting through the darkness. They found Lucas barely breathing, unrecognizable even from his ID, face swollen, clothes shredded, a trail of blood leading to him. Officers detained one guy slipping out of the east on 2nd Street, Asmar Schlaw, his right shoe caked in Lucas's blood, still wet from the scene. Lucas was loaded into an ambulance. The first responders did what they could, but the damage was done. 4 stab wounds had torn through vital organs. The blunt trauma had battered his skull and bones. Lucas flatlined en route to Foothills Medical Center, and paramedics in the ambulance frantically tried to save Lucas's life. The alley went quiet after the ambulance left. As the attack was so violent and Lucas's condition was grave, the police taped off the scene, evidence text combing for knives, blood drops, shoe prints, and other evidence. What the police found in that blood-soaked alley and the tangled web of accusations that followed would take years to sort out. We'll dive into the investigation when we return after this quick break. And we are back, Matthew, at the halfway point. This one made me angry. How about you? How do you see this?
When I read the script, I was looking up old news stories and stuff, and often it's cited as, the night that started with a coat check issue, but I don't think that's really true. I think it's a night where somebody stood up against a racial slur. 18-year-old kid didn't just ignore it. He stepped in and he pushed back, and that matters a lot to me because somebody standing up for something that's clearly wrong is important. And I don't think that from the news I've read points that out enough. This kid was goodness and positivity. And he's a hero in my eyes for standing up like this. And it's so sad that I want to say paid for it with his life, but rather that his life was taken. So you have this great kid that's standing up and being good. And then on the other side, you've got this group of people who executed him. And that, because that's at a certain point, that's what this becomes, right? It wasn't a fight that got out of hand. He's down. People are trying to help him and they come back to keep going. And it's not chaos and it's not confusion. This is a decision. And that's the difference here. One person stepped in to do the right thing and the others chose over and over and over again to do exactly the opposite. And they're terrible human beings.
Cowardly and stupid. Again, like I said. Anyway. Paramedics burst through the doors of Foothills Medical Center with Lukas Strasser-Hird on a stretcher just after 3 a.m. His body was limp, a chaos of blood and shredded clothing under the fluorescent glare. The ER team swarmed him immediately and went to work. They cracked his chest open right there in a desperate thoracotomy, hands plunging into the cavity to find the source of blood and hopefully stop it. But it was too late. Blood had poured out faster than they could pump it back in, and Lucas's young frame drained pale and cold. Lukas passed away. Lukas Strasser-Hird's death struck Calgary like a gut punch, leaving his family, friends, and community reeling in the early morning hours of November 23, 2013. His mother, Audrey Strasser, and her fiancé, James Davey, his father, Dale Hird, and his spouse, Nicole Cash, were shattered when police gave them the grim news. Their 18-year-old son and brother gone before dawn. Lucas's sister, Julia, step-siblings Rylan and Jada Davey, grandparents Estella and Frank Strasser, along with other extended family, all faced the void no one saw coming. Friends who'd laughed with him hours earlier now huddled at Foothills Medical Center, faces ashen, phones blowing up with the word spreading like fire.
Yeah, I don't know what to say here, but, I just feel so much for his family.
Yeah.
Here. That's all. I just wanted to break in and say that because...
Well, I kept thinking that too while I was writing this about his mom and his dad, and just like,
they had this beautiful kid, right? A good soul. And just this to happen to him is just horrifying.
By morning, grief poured onto social media sites. The Facebook page, R.I.P. Lukas Strasser, became a flood of raw posts. Friends calling him the best of us, always smiling, gone too soon. Vigils lit up downtown near Vinyl, candles and flowers piling high as strangers joined the family's pain. Dr. Gofton's autopsy that morning laid it out all plain. 4 deep stab wounds tore right through Lucas's chest and stomach, hitting vital spots with brutal precision. One stabbed 5 inches into his liver, slicing a major artery that sprayed blood like a fire hose. No one survives that kind of gush. Another punched the top of his left lung, causing it to collapse and fill with air that crushed his breathing. A third nicked the sac around his heart, trapping blood inside, and the fourth ripped his spleen and diaphragm. All 4 clustered under his ribs, stabbed upward from the front, the telltale sign of underhand thrusts from a 4 to 6 inch blade jammed in hard. Lukas had lost over 40% of his blood volume fast, the main cause of death, with kicks and stomps adding cracked ribs and skull fractures, black bruises across his face, arms, and legs, plus defensive cuts on his forearms from blocking the knife. Back in the alley, police crime scene techs moved in fast, treating the place like a giant puzzle under portable floodlights that turned night into stark day. The cold November air kept every blood drop fresh, no smearing or drying out too quickly. They found a huge pool where Lukas had been slumped against the wall and dumpster with arterial spray shooting out 6 feet across the concrete from his major artery hit, plus drip trails and swipe marks showing how he slid down. Techs marked off 47 separate blood spots, some pale pink from rain puddles, others bright red high up on the brick walls. The spray patterns proved someone stood right on top of him, close enough to touch.
This is where forensics does something really important.
Mm-hmm.
From a distance, you might think that this looks like chaos and, quote, group behavior, and it won't be known who did what. But forensics breaks it down into individual actions. Who was where, who did what, and there's not a blur anymore. It's a series of very specific choices made by these very specific people to do very specific things consciously to hurt and to kill him, and that's what forensics shows.
Yeah. A clear size 10 shoe print stood out in the blood, pressed deep with a sharp tread pattern, heading east towards 2nd Street Southwest. No knife ever turned up that night, but they collected everything else. Red-flecked gravel, a broken watch crystal, cigarette butts, threads from a jacket ditched nearby, all photographed, life-sized, labeled, and bagged tight. In all, police bagged 22 pieces of evidence by dawn. Blood-soaked gravel, a bent belt buckle, hair stuck in the dumpster, human DNA ready to profile against suspects. At Abundant Life Church on December 1st, hundreds gathered for Lucas's celebration of life. Bright clothes as requested, donations flowing for a memorial tree at Fish Creek Provincial Park. Dale Hird later told reporters through tears, words echoing the obituary's plea. Lukas was, quote, our light taken in an instant, end quote. The outpouring turned quiet mourning into public urgency, witnesses stepping forward, the city pressing police for answers. Calgary grieved a kid with everything ahead. The family was heartbroken. Friends forever changed. Community demanding truth from the alley's shadows. Who were the animals who'd done this? Homicide Unit Lead, Staff Sergeant David Parker, pulled in the Vinyl Club's CCTV footage first. Grainy but time-stamped clips showing the front door scuffle, then figures splitting off east and west down 10th Avenue Southwest right before the 911 calls lit up the phones. The tapes ran 64 minutes slow due to an unadjusted daylight savings clock, but synced to emergency logs. They pinned the first alley contact at 2:38 a.m. Investigators mapped movements, one group blocking the east end near First Street, another sealing the west, turning the lane into a death trap. As we mentioned, one officer nabbed Asmar Riyad Shlah, 21, slipping out of the east end. His right Nike soaked sole to top in type O blood matching Lukas. Skin cells under his nails also matched Lukas. Shlah's DNA was found in blood drops on the street from his nosebleed during the early fight at the front of the nightclub. His story? He'd been jumped, chased some guys, and gotten blood on his shoe helping a stranger. Detectives didn't buy it. The video showed him heading east with Gabe Metza at 2:38 and put him at the scene at the time of the attack on Lukas. Franz Amir Cabrera, 22, was also placed at the scene by video evidence. Club cams caught him lingering in front of Vinyl until after 2:40, crossing north then west to a lot beside the alley. His keys tested positive for Lukas's blood, jacket fibers nearby matching spatter patterns. Witnesses later tied him to the second wave kicking, plus an admission overheard post-arrest. Cabrera bragged to a friend about stabbing someone, saying he might have killed the guy.
This guy bragging about it was like, they're all scumbags. They're just all horrible people. This lot.
Yep.
Just horrible, horrible people. Like, where do these people come from? Were they dropped on their heads one?
Maybe, but that would give them an excuse. I don't know why I'm thinking this way, but maybe it's because of the book that I've been reading recently. It's called The Book of Murder by a prosecutor in California named Matt Murphy, involved in some really interesting cases. But he had a pretty interesting take on killers and psychopaths and these kind of people. It doesn't seem like any of these guys came from terrible backgrounds. They've had good childhoods. Maybe they're just spoiled. Maybe they're just brats, you know? Matt obviously puts it in a way better way than I can because he's so eloquent. But yeah, these guys just sound like turds whose, egos have been stroked for so long, they believe their own nonsense. Anyway, Jock Pauk, 21, was the initiator in the alley attack. Video had him jogging east down 10th at 2:38, shoving Lukas's group back first. His fists showed split knuckles and Lukas's blood under his rings. Aaron Rodgers and Brady Johnson placed him pummeling Lukas near the dumpster to start the first wave. Jordan Liao, 20, hovered peripherally, seen with the group but no direct hits, his role fuzzy till trial. Nathan Gervais, 22, was the ghost. Cams showed him dashing west at 2:35 toward his car, his girlfriend later testifying that he grabbed a knife there. Rogers and Johnson heard him boast about waiting to jump Lukas. He admitted to the stabbing later that night before fleeing Canada to the Philippines, charged with first-degree murder in absentia. The interviews piled up. 62 witnesses over weeks. Good Samaritans Stephen, Joey Arnold, and Natalie Henderson described two waves. The stabbing occurred early during the first confrontation, then the stomping wave after their 911 plea. By December, all 5 attackers were named. Only 4 were arrested and charged at first. Cabrera, Shlah, Pauk, and Liao were all charged with second-degree murder. Gervais, as we mentioned, was in the wind in the Philippines, and he was charged in absentia with first-degree murder. The case ballooned into Calgary's biggest that year, tips flooding Crime Stoppers. Detectives chased Gervais to the border but lost him. The rest lawyered up. By spring 2014, charges stuck firm on timelines, forensics, and eyewitnesses sinking the mob attack. There was no smoking gun or knife, but totality, video, blood, witnesses, and boasts painted a clear picture of a brutal frenzy. A 6-week jury trial would test if the alley's chaos proved murder beyond a reasonable doubt. Trial kicked off in April 2016 in Calgary Court of Queen's Bench, Justice G.H. Pullman presiding over a packed 6B courtroom. The Crown, led by prosecutors Bill Wombold and Francis Ma, framed the attack as a classic swarming. Pauk blocked and pummeled Lukas first at 2:38 a.m., Gervais stabbed in the opening wave, Cabrera and Schla stomped during the second surge after Good Samaritans dialed 911. Defense teams countered hard. Cabrera's lawyer, Mick Bendall, argued his client threw punches but had no blade. Schla's counsel, Alan Fay, screamed eyewitness errors and planted DNA. Pauk's side admitted the initial beatdown but denied foresight of death, and Liao played bystander. 6 weeks dragged with forensic deep dives. Dr. Gofton's autopsy photos flashed 4 torso stabs, blood spray physics, Schla's shoe swabs matching Lukas's blood, vinyl CCTV synced to 911 logs showed the alley pinch, overheard boasts had Cabrera admitting to stabbing somebody, and the Good Samaritans, Stephen Joey Arnold and Natalie Henderson, relived shielding the bleeding teen only to flee from the boot storm. The jury was instructed and got the case on June 10, 2016, and deliberated for 6 days. On June 16th, verdicts landed like hammers. Cabrera and Schla guilty of second-degree murder. Pauk, manslaughter. Liao acquitted. The Crown, unable to prove that he'd been involved directly in the attack. The gallery erupted. Lukas's family sobbed as Dale Hurd clutched Audrey Strasser. Directed verdict bids failed mid-trial. All 4 pushed for acquittal or a downgrade. Justice Pullman ruled evidence let jurors decide causation and intent. Cabrera and Schla faced mandatory life, Pauk lesser time. Sentencing came on January 13, 2017. Justice Michelle Hollins called the attack, quote, cowardly and senseless. A 2-wave frenzy ignoring pleas. Cabrera got life, parole ineligibility set at 13 years. Schla, life with 12 years before parole. Pauk drew 7 years flat for manslaughter. He'd started the whole thing but got out early. Victim impact crushed the room. Family read letters of a vibrant 18-year-old stolen mid-stride. The public fumed online. Many deemed the jail terms were too soft for the blood they'd spilled. Cabrera and Schla appealed to Alberta's Court of Appeal. Cabrera went after flaws in the jury instructions and claimed the verdict made no sense. Schla attacked weak eyewitness IDs and overstated DNA. The 6-week trial swelled into a massive 200-page ruling on May 14, 2019. The decision was split 2-1. Chief Justice Catherine Fraser's majority backed the murder convictions for both, saying the full pile of evidence, video timelines, bloody shoes, DNA on keys, overheard boasts, let a reasonable jury nail them for jumping in. Justice Barbara Veldhuis dissented hard. A new trial for Cabrera on a joint principle theory, outright acquittal for Schla. The Supreme Court of Canada shut it all down on November 24, 2019. No more appeals, the convictions were locked. Cabrera scored a small win in 2021, a parole adjustment dropping his total stretch to 18 years for sentence parity. Schla tried the same and lost. As of April 2026, the vinyl alley nightmare is done. Cabrera and Schla are behind bars for life, and Pauk is out after 7 years.
Yeah, 7 years and walking free, you know. It's incredible to know that these horrible human beings are walking on the streets still.
But there was one more. Nathan Gervais, the man who'd fled Canada after Lukas Strasser-Hird's 2013 death, finally faced justice years later for stabbing Lukas. Extradited back and tried separately, a jury convicted him of first-degree murder in May 2019. Justice William Tillman called the killing, quote, predatory and calculated, sentencing Gervais, then 24, to life with no parole for 25 years on May 24, 2019. Victim impact statements were emotional. Lucas's grandmother, Deborah Hird, said Gervais, quote, stole the essence of the family members left behind. Lucas's sister, Julia, just 9 at the time, described watching him take his last breath, revealing her PTSD diagnosis and lingering fear. Quote, he's hurt so many other people. We just haven't been able to grieve, end quote. Outside the court, Julia told Global News she spoke to, quote, let him know he hurt more than just my brother. Dale Hird, Lucas's father, called it, quote, justice for Lucas the best it can be, adding, Lucas just tried to do the right thing and paid for it with his life. And that's it for Dark Poutine episode 417, Murder Behind Vinyl, the tragic death of Lukas Strasser-Hird. That's right. It's time for voicemails. You can leave us a message at 1-877-327-5786 or 1-877-DARK-PTN. We'd love to hear from you. Let's see who called us this week. Here's our first of 2 voicemails.
Hi, I'm from Montreal, and this is not my real voice because I have laryngitis and pneumonia. So guess what, guys? You have kept me binge listening, and this is such a fabulous podcast. I love your style. I love your quirks. I love everything about it. So, Emma in Montreal, go shit in your hat, or in French, pas chier dans ton chapeau. I will be calling back. Bye.
Oh, thanks, Emma. Thank you for taking time away from your sickbed to call us. Holy smokes, you poor thing.
I love that. And I'm going to give her a job as an ears, nose, and throat specialist.
She's an ENT. So she's been exposed to all that kind of stuff numerous times, and finally it just came for her.
Well, I hope you overcome your... I don't know how people get laryngitis, but pneumonia sounds scary. So I hope you're feeling better by the time you hear this.
I've had laryngitis before, and it came on after I was coughing for a long time.
Oh, it'd be so nice to not listen to you for a while.
I had. Come on now.
You're not kidding.
You better be. I'm going to go have a cry again.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I know. Anyway, well, thank you, Emma, and thank you for the French version of Go Shit in Your Hat. I always appreciate that. Let's have a listen to our second voicemail.
Hello, my fellow Canadian schmuck. Every week I say to myself, you need to leave a voicemail. And I never do. But then someone who is from my part of the world went and left one just outside of Buffalo, and I said, well, I guess I'm going to have to now. Although I don't really have much to say about this week's episode, it does make me think of the famous Shakespeare line, first thing we do, let's kill all the lawyers. And on that note, I wish you a very good day, and if you're so inclined, drop a deuce in your chapeau. This is DL from just outside of Buffalo, and I can't wait to hear what you think I do for a living.
Okay, so DL from Buffalo, and he was talking obviously about the Kamloops lawyer who, Butch Bagavayo, yuck, that guy gave me the creeps. But anyway, so what do you think DL does there just outside of Buffalo, New York, Matthew?
You know what? I think, I'm just getting the vibe here, I think he's a sound engineer.
A sound engineer. Okay.
Yeah. I think maybe because he knew how to speak on the phone there. Like that was very good recording.
Yeah.
Right? Especially considering the previous one had laryngitis.
Yes.
But, and he knew how to like get that across. So I think he works as a sound engineer.
So he works as a sound engineer. Well,
Outside of
why
Buffalo.
not?
Yeah,
Why
and
the
he
heck
does.
not?
Lots of local rock bands. He does sound engineering.
Okay, yeah, that was going to be my next question. I was going to ask, well, who does he do the sound engineering for?
Yeah,
Does he?
Local rock bands. They call him in when they need them.
I wish I could afford a sound engineer for this podcast, but I cannot. Oh, well, whatever.
That's why you're always yelling at me to speak into the microphone.
Yeah, because I'm the sound engineer.
Speak up.
Yeah, and I know I do a terrible job of it, folks. Please be kind. I sometimes, I'll get voicemails from people and saying, what the heck are you doing with here? And I'm like, oh, I don't. Honestly, I had to do it. I had to do it at some point, and I couldn't afford ever to have somebody else do it. So
I think you've self-taught pretty well though. From
oh gosh, I don't know. Well, I hope so.
Don't be so hard on yourself.
Anyway,
just if you have a hard time hearing, just turn up your volume.
Yeah, but some people email me and say, I've got the volume cranked and I can't hear.
No. You've probably
boy,
gotten better over the years though. Come on.
I would hope so.
Yeah.
I would hope so. That's it for this week's voicemails. Again, you can leave us one at 1-877-327-5786 or 1-877-DARK-PTN. We'd love to hear from you, even if it is just to say hi and to tell us to go shit in our hats. If you're stumped for what to chat with us about, a quick story is welcome. And we don't have any donut money donors or PayPal patrons, or I don't know. What am I saying? We don't have any patrons or donut money donors this week, but we know you still love us.
I'm going to do a campaign for you.
Are you going to do a campaign for us?
Yeah, I'm gonna write a script because algorithms and crap. So we're gonna do a little bit of fundraising. You watch, guys. I'm gonna create some fun fundraising thing.
Oh boy!
Wait and see.
Well, yeah, because kitties need to eat. Thanks to all our patrons and Donut Money donors, past and present, for your generosity. It helps to keep the show going. You can become a patron of Dark Poutine at patreon.com/darkpoutine. For a one-time donation, you can send us donut money via PayPal or interact using our email address, darkpoutinepodcast@gmail.com. If you don't already subscribe to the show, it would mean a lot if you did. You can easily find Dark Poutine on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you listen to your favorite shows. If you haven't gotten yours yet, my 2 books are available to order via links on the Dark Poutine website or anywhere fine books are sold. And speaking of darkpoutine.com, check it out for show notes and other cool stuff. We'd appreciate it if you gave Dark Poutine a like or a follow on Facebook and Instagram. Most importantly, thank you for listening. Tell your friends about us. Word of mouth is a powerful thing. And that is it for this episode of Dark Poutine. So until next time, don't forget to be a good egg and not a bad apple.
Goodbye.
Goodbye, everybody.